Good evening, lovely spirits. It's the wise servant here, Mr. Solace. Today I want to do this video to all the teachers who speak on Sinetta TV, as well as all those who view Sinetta TV. I want to do this video for y'all. Now, this is not a video attacking Sinetta TV or anyone that speaks on there. So you can get that out your mind. This is not that. I just want to do this video because when I'm on Sinetta TV, I never get a chance to truly go in depth into the knowledge so that people can get a better understanding of the things that I say. So I just want to do this video right quick because every time I'm on Sinetta TV, I never get a chance to just flow. I'm always debating like 5 people at once. And I'm cool with that, but teaching, that's my thing. So debating is an interesting thing. This is what I want to say before I go into this video. Debating is cool, but it's an interesting thing I want you guys to grasp. Now, most of the brothers that teach or speak on Sinetta TV, they're teaching someone else's teachings. They're a follower of a religion or a follower of someone else's teachings. Now, my point in saying that is this. If you're a follower in someone else's teaching, then you truly don't qualify to debate. And you have to grasp that. Well, at least debate me, because I teach my own teachings from my own understandings of life. Now, I do scholarship on what other people are talking about because before I learned as I know now, I learned how y'all learn. So, it's a deep thing, but brothers have to grasp that they're just followers, no different than those that follow them. And that truly means a lot. I know we like to overlook things, but you have to grasp. Most of y'all don't even know the people or the things that y'all follow. Y'all don't know the author of these things, like the Bible, Kemetic science. Y'all don't really know who put their hands on these things and all types of things like this. So this is what I mean by people follow. And that's not the same as knowing. And it's a deep, interesting thing. But I want to do this video right quick to all you beautiful, lovely spirits. And I want to say this first. I have no problem with people teaching African history. You know, the Pan-African movement, all the African teachings. I have no problems with this. My whole problem is that it's not being taught in truth. And it's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp. If we're going to teach African history, the first thing we have to do is start with truth. And the truth is, there is no Africa. Africa is the result of colonization. So you have to grasp. Africa is a white thing. Prior to white people invading Africa, you just had different countries or different nations of people. Then white people came, they colonized that area, and they basically combined all those lands, so to say, and just called it Africa. So now all those different nationalities just become one. But this is not truth. This is white man's truth. So if we're going to teach African history, we need to start with the actual truth and explaining to people that all those different nationality of people are truly separate from one another in their eyes, in their way of life. Not separate in a sense of It's beef, but separate in a sense of where they live and their nationality, because that's what nationality has to do with where you're at. So someone from Somalia did not see themselves as the same as someone from Nigeria. But the white man in his colonization puts all these people under one umbrella, which is called Africa. So when we teach Pan-African, this is where I have a problem with it, because it's not the truth. And we have to stick with the truth, because there's too much lies already. So it's a deep thing. Now, if we're going to teach people African history, we need to do away with that word, because that word is truly negative. It derives from Africanus, the white man. So, and it all has to do with colonizing. And we know what that's about. So, when you say the word Africa or African, it's just truly a sad thing. So that's my whole thing. We have to start with the foundation being of truth. Now, everyone on this land is truly not from Africa. And we have to deal with that truth also. Now, let me explain. Because a lot of you brothers believe that Africa is the motherland and all life started in Africa and migrated out. And this is not truth. This is just a theory. But in all reality, you had people, melanated people, on every continent. Since as far back as you can go, no group of one people started one place and migrated out. That makes no sense. You have to grasp. If everyone started in Africa and migrated out, then all you would have is Africans on different continents. You wouldn't have a different race and nationality of people on different continents. You would just have Africans on every continent if that's what all life started with. So you have to grasp. You have to have something different to mate with to bring about something different. If an African mates with an African, you'll always get an African, even if they're in Switzerland. So it's a deep thing you have to grasp. Now, I know brothers like to say that, what is this word called? Slips my mind. Evolution. Brothers like to say that when Africans migrated out of Africa, change of climate and environment is what changed their features. And I just want to tell y'all that that makes no sense. Because if that was true, then you would still see Africans turning white and turning Puerto Rican and all these different nationalities. You would still see that happening. Why did it stop? When Africans migrated out of Africa, they never stopped migrating out. Different people left at different times. And this is still happening today, but you don't see Africans over in Europe turning white unless they're mating with white people. Other than that, you still got black-ass Africans everywhere in the earth. So we have to grasp. People don't go different places and change in their features. People only change when they come in contact with something different. And when they mix with that, then you get different things. So you had different groups of people on every continent. And as these groups of people migrated out of their native lands, or a small population of them migrated out of their native land, they came into contact with one another in different times. And this is how you got the variety of nationalities that we have. Now, all the people were melanated on all the continents. So you have to grasp. But it's like I explained when I go into the albinos. and how albinos mixed and mingled in with the population. Now, when I say albinos, I'm not speaking of black people who are albinos. I'm speaking of the original albino, which is a Caucasian person, white-skinned, white or really light blonde hair, bluish, reddish, purplish eyes, like an albino, the kind you've never seen. You've only seen the result of them mingling in with the melanated people. So when you see an albino today and they're a black man, they're just an albino, I'm not speaking of him. He's a black person. He just has the affected genes from the albino because they mixed and mingled in with every nation of people on the continent. So this is how you get the white people that you see today, where some of them have black hair from the mixing and mingling with the melanated people. He gave them melanin in the hair, the eyes. Some have blonde hair, some are redheaded. So this is how you get that from original albinos, Caucasians, intermingling in with melanated people, the different melanated peoples of this planet. Now, of course, this all happened long ago. So the real albinos, they basically completely breeded themselves into the population. Now, I'm not saying they all did, because of course these albinos, they come from somewhere, because life spreads. You get what I'm saying? So planets that don't have life on them, they will. I'm talking about right now. Planets that's out there that don't have life on them, some species of man will come along and find a way to manipulate their genes with whatever's on the planet, so that their species can take over the planet or whatever. Or whatever, the DNA of the planet. Adjust their genes and things to the DNA of the planet so that they can survive and whatnot. So you can say that's all the albinos did. They mixed in with us, which would be the native people of the different continents. And this is how they're able to live here as white people. So it's a deep thing. Anybody else that's an albino, they're not an albino. They're whatever they are. So if you see a Chinese man that's an albino, he's just a Chinese man. If you see a black man that's an albino, he's not an original albino. He's a nappy-headed, wide-nosed black man. He just has those affected genes from the mixing and mingling of long ago. So a lot of things that are being taught from the wrong perspective and wrong aspects. We're getting so caught up into this black supremacy type of attitude that we're altering all the knowledge to fit that. And I know why this is happening, because white people do this in their movies. They make all the black people white in the movies and things like this. Brothers are out here trying to teach black nationality and history, and then they see this sparks nerves in their system, and then they wind up altering the knowledge themselves, making everything more black or more African than it truly is. You had people native to every land of Earth at the same time. It's just a matter of contact. It's just a matter of when they come into contact with one another. So that's truly all it boils down to. Now, most of the black people in America today are truly the natives of this land. We are the true ancestors of them people. We are the true descendants of them people. Not the white-looking native Indians that you see on the reserves. They mainly white. And they got a little bit of the native blood. But we have most of the native blood. And a lot of people need to understand this. Because this is how we get robbed of the land. We sitting here talking about go back to Africa and all this stuff, and this is our land. Y'all have to grasp. America is the last lands to be colonized. Because Africa been colonized, Africa been influenced by the white man and put into that system. So the Africans, they was believing in God and Jesus and all this way before the Native Americans. They ain't never even heard of none of that. Africans was already lost. They was coming here lost already. So it's a deep thing y'all got to grasp. America was one of the last lands to be colonized and influenced. I mean, they're still building this land up as we speak. So it's a deep thing that brothers have to grasp. This is our land. We look for nationality here and there. And truly, this is our land. The natives that were here before Christopher Columbus came, they looked like us. All of them. So that's why if you go to all them Virgin Islands like Barbados, where Rihanna is from, or you go to Haiti, Dominican Republic, Mexico, all the way down into North America, we all this complexion are a shade darker. Grasp. Haitians, a black man, what we call a black man, Haitians, Jamaicans, all them peoples on them Virgin Islands, they all look exactly the same. You can't tell the difference between me and a Dominican guy unless we speak. You can't tell the difference between me and a Haitian dude unless we speak. And y'all have to grasp this. Before the white man came, all those people of all those different islands, because North America ain't nothing but islands either. Islands too. Manhattan is just an island. Brooklyn, Manhattan, all of these is just islands. They just turned them into straight cities. So you got to grasp, when they came, Manhattan, Brooklyn, these things look like Barbados, Bahamas, no different. But it's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp. Before the white man came, all the people that you see here been here. So the Mexicans been in Mexico. They just look lighter now because white people came into there and mixed and mingled with them. Same with Haitians. They were there already. White people just came in and mixed and mingled in with them. This is why they speak French. It's a deep thing. Same with DR. Those in Dominican Republic, they've been there. White people came in. Or those from Spain came in and mixed with them. And this is how you get Puerto Rico and Spanish people. This is why Puerto Ricans and Dominicans don't really like each other. Because this go back far. The Puerto Ricans, the Spanish, they really, those from Spain. And the Dominicans that you see that are my complexion, they truly the natives that were here. They would have been called the Native Indians by the white people. But they were just the Native Americans or the Chickasaw, whatever nation of people they would have called themselves. And it's the same when you get all the way into North America. The black people you see here, we were here. We are those Native Indians that they were talking about. The white man just came and mixed in and mingled in with us. And a lot of the Africans were brought to the north and mixed in and mingled in with us. So this is why we resemble Africans somewhat, but somewhat we don't. This is why. So we just have to grasp, man, we're claiming the wrong place. And it's a deep thing that a lot of people have to grasp. This is why a lot of our great-grandmothers and grandmothers used to always say, oh, we got Indian in our family. It's not a coincidence that all black people from America, great-grandmothers and grandmothers used to say that they got Indian in their family. Because your great-grandmother was alive in 1800s, and they were on the plantations. And they were called the Indians by the whites. And the slaves that the whites were bringing were African. So it's a deep thing. You had plantations with Native Americans, white people, and Africans, all slaves working. Couldn't communicate with one another. So you have to grasp. They were not the same nationality as the Africans. Because I know a lot of brothers like to say, oh, the Africans migrated out to other places long ago. And this is why in the beginning of the video I broke down how all life did not start in Africa or no one place. So it's a deep thing you have to grasp. The people of America have always been the people of America. The people of Africa, always been the people of Africa. Now, I'm not saying these people didn't migrate out, but the natives of America will always be the natives of America, and the natives of Africa, or those different countries over there, will always be the natives of there. Yeah, you will have some people from America migrated to Africa. This is truly those Hebrews y'all hear about when you're speaking of the Bible. It's talking about people that are not from that region. This is why I did the video breaking down how Hebrew truly meant immigrant, so that people can understand. It's talking about peoples that are not from that Middle Eastern African area. So it's a deep thing people have to grasp, but there was a lot of migrating back and forth, but the people never mistake themselves as one and the same. So you have to grasp. People don't migrate, go somewhere else, and then name themselves something different. They say, So it's a deep thing. Now, I know you see a lot of what y'all call African carvings and things in Mexico, etc., etc., but this is just the features that the people have. Y'all have to grasp. Africans ain't the only people in the world that had big nose and big lips. I don't know why y'all think that. You still have Mexicans today with big-ass noses and big-ass lips. And they not even dark-skinned no more. They got a lot of white genes in them. They light-skinned. But they still got the features, so y'all have to grasp. It's a deep thing. If you carve the image of a black man in America today, a person could come along and say, he was really an African, but in all reality, he was born in America. He don't know nothing of Africa. Like most of us don't. He ain't never heard nothing about Africa. So this is my thing when we be speaking about the Africa and the African teachings. It just has to be taught from a perspective of truth. It's a deep thing. But it has to be taught from the perspective of truth so people can learn. Because saying Africa, knowing that this is white man stuff, I just don't see how that's a good thing. When Dr. Umar Johnson be like, let's go back to Africa, it just reminds me when the white man used to tell black people, go back to Africa. It's like y'all are teaching white people's perspective of those nations of people, and it's just disrespectful when you truly grasp, because they lost as it is, the Africans. They lost as it is, because they've been invaded by white people. And we pull for the wrong things, for the wrong reasons, and the wrong agendas. And it's a deep thing, but I don't have no problem with African teachings. It just has to be done from truth, and can't nobody argue or disagree with this. We all know goddamn well there's no place called Africa. Africa's a bunch of different places that's been colonized and called one place. So we don't even need to argue or debate about that. Brothers need to just adjust their teachings and stop getting lost in debating, because when they get lost in debating, then they be forgetting to question themselves. Like, hold on. I'm hard-body in African teachings, but I'm pumping what white men said. So it's a deep thing. We got to just grasp. Get everything on the up and up. Also, I want to discuss the Medunetta. Because there's a whole bunch of ruckus on has the Medu Neter been deciphered or not. And this is stupid. Like, we all got to start being real with self. Like, truly. Because there's too much people running around here acting like they men and they real. And y'all don't be real with yourselves. Now, y'all all know goddamn well that the Medu Neter language was far more superior than all the languages we have today. Our language is just a small piece of what that language was. We all know goddamn well you can't take the word of what no man said. So just because old white men like Champollion and all these weirdos said they deciphered something, that don't mean nothing. And we all know this. Even though we pump, it don't mean nothing. When you say the Medu Neter has been deciphered, you completely disrespect the people of them times. Because we all know they had way more vocabulary than us. They had way more alphabet than us. They had way more words and meanings to the words than we have. Now, how you going to decipher somebody's language and they got more words than you? How does that work? So brothers got to make sense. We get lost and start talking completely outside of common sense. You got brothers really going hard that the Medu Neter been deciphered. How? How do you decipher something and you don't even have a sufficient amount of words? How does that work? Like, we got to get real. To say that's like saying an 8-year-old can decipher a grown man's intellect. Like, we completely disrespecting them people of that time when we do that. We got to get real. Now, when I say the Medu Neter has not been deciphered, I am speaking understanding. Because we confuse translation and decipherment. Brothers will say, oh, how you speaking of the Medu Neter if it haven't been deciphered? Well, when I speak of the Medu Neter, I don't speak of it the way y'all do. I speak of it the way I understand it from my understandings, uninfluenced by anyone else. So grasp. When I say it ain't been deciphered, that's facts. From the way that I teach. I don't teach what y'all say on the Medu Neter. But when I say decipher, I am speaking of understanding. I'm not speaking of translation. Yeah, they translated as many words as they could. Okay. But to translate something and to understand something is two different things. If you tell a Puerto Rican person, if a Puerto Rican person is listening to black people speak, and they understand English, and they hear a black person say dog, and they know, okay, dog is perro, and perro is dog, so, and a black man like, yo, what up, dog? I'm about to go see my dog. So the Spanish dude, he understand the word, but he don't know that the black dude talking about he about to go see his homeboy. He think he talking about a dog. So this is what I mean by understanding. Translating something and understanding something is two different things. The Medu Neter has not been deciphered. We need to stop talking about this because when y'all do this, y'all make yourselves look completely stupid. And I don't think people realize this. It's the following. The followers don't know nothing, and teachers get lost in that. They get a bunch of followers boosting them up, and they forget the followers is following you. They don't know nothing. So you got to grasp. Y'all sitting here arguing about if the Medu Neter been deciphered, and y'all know goddamn well we ain't even got enough words to decipher what they talking about. When we going to start dealing with the truth so things can get deciphered? This is how I was able to decipher the Neteru. And this is how I was able to understand that all the Neteru, the 2,000 plus Neteru, they're all paired up and grouped into nines. So there's not just one in need, meaning there's not just Atum, Shu, Tefnut, Nut, Geb, or Saw, or Set, Nephthys. There's not just that group of 9, but all the Neteru are paired up into groups of 9, representing whatever cycle or level of life they're speaking of. And it is just breaking down the science of how an atom builds itself all the way up to an organism and is physically born out. This is how you get Heru being the physical manifestation of Osar, which is the sperm cell. So brothers have to just cleanse their conscience of all this stuff that they were taught. Because a lot of the teachers were taught. They haven't given themselves a chance to learn on their own. And a lot of the things y'all were taught are wrong. The Medunetta has not been deciphered. When y'all start to realize that, then y'all can begin to start to deciphering this thing yourselves. Because I don't have the desire to. I just deciphered the Neteru just to show y'all that y'all don't have a goddamn clue what y'all talking about. And I broke it down so that y'all can truly understand that what I'm saying makes way more sense than y'all confusion. All y'all say is, oh, it's over 2,000 Neteru gods. And y'all could break them down. And y'all could break down their description, but y'all can't break down the point. What was the point of the Neteru? And this is my point. I break that down. The point of the Neteru was science. Because this is Kemetic science. So everything got to do with science. Brothers get lost on their gods and religions. And they bring that shit over into Kemetic science. Kemetic science ain't got nothing to do with gods. Neteru does not translate to mean God. They don't know what Neteru means. And they don't know what God means. So that's why it's translated to mean God. But Neteru ain't had nothing to do with God. God is a new word. Grasp. People in ancient times ain't used that word. That's an English word. It don't translate to no other word. Y'all gotta grasp. It's a deep thing. But Neteru, nothing the Kemetic science, nothing the Kemetic people, as far as Kemetic science go, nothing they were teaching in Kemetic science had anything to do with gods, religions, and none of that. It was science. It was school science. Like, people get lost. And they was breaking down all those Neteru were basically just breaking down the different atoms and the different levels of life. Life is a size thing. People don't understand this for some reason. As above, so below means micro, macro. It means like whatever is on one level of life is on the same as in the small level. Same in the large level. We got to get an understanding. Because brothers be getting lost. I be hearing a lot of teaching, being taught, and brothers be talking a good game and sounding very intellectual, but what they say it don't make no sense. Let's just be real. Let's stop lying so much. Let's stop talking about Africa and let's start talking about the actual countries there. If you're teaching African history, tell me what you're teaching. What country? Ethiopian history? Because they got different history than someone from Somalia. Ethiopians, they into Selassie and all that. So you got to know what you're talking about. What nationality of people are you teaching? Because to say Africa, then you lying. Because they all got different heritage, different culture, and different history. And y'all brothers got to stop lying. It's a deep thing. If anyone wants to have a discussion with me on this, as I said, I'm open to it. A lot of y'all confuse me as a young guy. I'm not young. I'm in my 30s. I got 16-year-old kids just like most of y'all got damn near grown kids. So ain't no difference. So let's get real. Let's cut the bullshit and start teaching from truth. Y'all get too lost in biasness, worrying about what white people doing. It's interfering with y'all grasping truth. Y'all trying to make everything black and African. Ain't no need for that. If a person don't know who they are, then that's their goddamn problem. You look in the mirror every day. If you can't see that you ain't white, then a nigga saying black power 50,000 times ain't gonna make you grasp that. A nigga teaching you fake African history ain't gonna make you grasp that. If you can't just simply look in the mirror and say, I want to know all I can know about all the melanated peoples of these different continents and their different cultures. Because even over in the Americas, you had different Native Americans. They had different nationalities from one another. You had the Chickasaw, the Cherokee. It was a lot of them. Just like in Africa, you got a lot of them. Many different tribes, many different families. But if you teach in the history, you need to know what you're teaching specifically. Because saying Africa is stupid. It's like saying I'm teaching American history. Who? Which native tribe are you teaching? Because they weren't all the same. So let's get clear. We got to start making sense. And it's a deep thing. A lot of brothers, they not willing to learn over. Because they done spent all their time with their head of whoever they teacher's ass is. And it's a deep thing, but the Pan-African movement just got to get a little more truth in there. Because I ain't got no problem with supporting anything, but it got to be right. Pan-African, that whole name just pisses me off because Africa represents white people colonizing those melanated lands. And it should bother y'all too if y'all truly into those people's history. That should piss you off. But for some reason it doesn't. Y'all like screaming that out. It's a deep thing. A lot of you brothers need to do your Native American studies. Because that's where y'all know a lot about Africa and y'all don't know nothing about nowhere else. And this is why there's no correlations or true understandings of what you know. Because you got to know a thing to know a thing. It's a deep, deep thing. People don't grasp. A lot of y'all need to get into y'all Native American histories and studies. Because y'all running around saying dumb stuff like this brother's a coon and that brother's a coon. And a coon ain't a disrespectful word. A coon is just a Native American tribe or clan. Within every nationality or every group in the Americas, you had different clans within the groups. So in the Cherokee, you had Coon Clan, Bear Clan, Snake Clan, Wolf Clan. You had many different clans within the Cherokee. And so it's the same with the Chickasaw and all the rest of the Native American peoples. And when we call one another coons, you just show how white influenced you are. Because brothers only know that word coon from white people. But they don't understand that that's just the raccoon people. This is what the natives refer to themselves as. Raccoon people, snake people, the wolf people. They lived in certain ways. So you could say this was their religion, the life, and a certain aspect of the life. And when they all came together, all that knowledge was poured into one basket for complete understandings. But brothers don't understand anything. We run around saying coon and a whole bunch of dumb stuff. Truly not realizing how much of a fool we're making of ourselves. Because Brother Umar Johnson, as well as a lot of brothers, have used that word coon. And you have brothers like me who are sharp on all different nationalities of people. I'm sharp on all different nations of people history. So I hear brothers saying coon, and I'm like, God damn, they don't even know their own goddamn history. It's a deep thing. You can't be a black person and say you're not a native. You're not a descendant of the Native Americans. You can't possibly say that. Anybody that's here, that was here during slavery times, they got their blood in them because this was their lands. Everybody else came. So you got to grasp. I don't care who you are. You breeded into them. The natives of America didn't breed into the other populations. The populations breeded into them. So grasp. I'm not talking about new people that came to America in today's times. I'm talking about in the slavery times whoever was coming to America, they was breeding into those nations of people. It wasn't the other way around. This is why we still coppered color and we still look the goddamn same. We the same description that we was then. Now. It's a deep thing, man. I hope you brothers get a little more sharp on y'all knowledge. Look into other people's nationalities. Pick up other books. If you're going to be in a scholarship, be truth with yourself. Understand that scholarship means nothing. All it means is you know what a bunch of other people wrote. You have to know things for yourself. Knowing what someone told you means nothing unless you know for yourself. Grasp. If I tell you something, the only way you'll know for sure if I'm right is if you know the same thing I'm telling you on your own. And a lot of y'all are lost on that common sense thing right there. That's the first piece. How you get knowledge and you don't have common sense? Because brothers be going hard talking about they scholars. They don't read enough to be scholars, that's for one. Because I know somebody's going to be dumb enough to debate me one day, and y'all going to see. But my thing is this. Scholarship is for games. It's for brain games. It's for having fun. You're not supposed to literally be using scholarship to understand life, know self, and truly understand anything. Scholarship ain't for that. Scholarship is just to see another man's perspective on things you know already. Y'all read these things and have no clue of what they are outside of what you read. This is why when you ask brothers things, they can't show you it in physical life. And they say, oh, it's in another dimension and all this weird stuff. Because they're trying to understand something that they have no understanding of on their own. And life don't work like that. You have to know something to know something. And it's a deep thing. A lot of the things y'all be trying to figure out, we ain't even get to that. We haven't even gotten there technologically. Y'all trying to figure out, y'all got to understand, these ancient peoples were far more technologically advanced than we are now. We're getting there, but they were way past where we are. So a lot of things they're speaking of is like invisibility and sci-fi for us because we haven't got to that place in our technological advances. But the farther ahead we get in technology, some of these things will start to make more sense to y'all, and y'all will start to realize that these people were just more lost than y'all. Because the technology and all that stuff is what have y'all lost from life. This is why men are born and they dumb. Men are born and dumb because they've been condemned to death. And this is why they eat other life forms, stealing the life from that thing, so that they won't have to face the facts that they're dead. They're the living dead. If you don't eat, what's going to happen to you? Exactly. But you eat because you say that's how it goes. And you only say that because you ain't what's being eaten. And it just shows your morality and your character. And this is why everybody's in hell or death. But y'all think y'all alive, so enjoy. But it's a deep thing. Deep, deep thing. Y'all better start tuning into my channel and getting some of that truth, because I ain't biased. I learn from everything. But I don't learn from listening to what people say. I learn from observation. I've learned how to connect with things. And that's what y'all need to do. Now, the metal netter ain't been deciphered. I just proved that. When I break things down, they're truly irrefutable. I don't waste my breath saying something if you can debate it. So when I say the metal netter ain't been deciphered, and then I say they had more vocabulary and more meaning to words and more alphabet than we have, that right there, end of story. You cannot decipher something if you don't have enough words. And if anybody's stupid enough to try to go around that point, you're just a fool. I don't even want to talk to you. Because the point of this video ain't about debating. It's about brothers facing reality. In reality, the ancient Kemetic people were far more advanced than we are yet. So you're not never going to decipher what they said, and people need to just realize that. Different people are going to decipher different parts of it, and that's the best you're going to get. And if people ever become unified, maybe that'll be the only way you'll get the full understanding of what they're saying. Like how I broke down the Neteru. That's one aspect of it. Now, I can decipher more of it, but I don't feel like it because it's stupid to me. It's not religion, but what it has been made to be. When you deciphering these things, you got to decipher deciphering. You got to, lift other men's fingerprints off these things because they just be making up stuff. It's a deep thing. You can't just decipher the text. You gotta decipher what was added. Like, okay, that don't even belong here. Somebody added, so it's a deep thing. But when you're dealing with the Neteru, y'all just need to grasp. They go in pairs, and they go in groups of 9s, and maybe that'll help some of you Kemetic followers understand what you're following better. They're not talking about God, so get all of that out your mind. You're not supposed to be a Christian anyway, so you're not even supposed to be dealing with that word anymore. So remove that, so you can get a better understanding of Kemetic science in the Neteru. Because it's a simple thing. The Neteru, they all fall into the Aeneid. They all fall into a 9, a category of 9. And they all end with the physical manifestation. Heru, Ra, whatever. But it's all atom, cell. It's just breaking down science. Atom all the way up to the physical living deity. On whatever level of life you're on. You have our level of life. You have the solar level of life. The galaxy level of life. If you don't like how scientists explain science in that way, well, the life is within the life. So I have a bunch of microcells within me. That's a level of life. That level of life would have an need to it. Now, we're all microcells on our level of life within a macro being. In the same way. And that's our level of life. That being is on a macro level of life, walking amongst other macro beings with microcells within them, which would be the equivalent of us. Just like we all have microcells within us. So the life is just within the life. And when scientists break down galaxies and all this dumb stuff or whatever they be trying to explain, because I still don't even know what they be talking about. I just use that because I know y'all know that. Y'all don't know the life is within the life. So I start saying that and y'all get lost. Like, huh? So I just say, okay, they know science. How they know science, let me explain the truth to them through what they know. Because y'all know weird stuff. But y'all know suns, galaxies, and all this weird stuff. I don't know that stuff. I know the spirit that is within all living beings, no matter what level of life they're on. And the sun that we see ain't nothing more than that. The spirit of whatever person we're within. And everything is an atom. So you just an atom on your level of life. Depending on how far down you are, depending on how far down you are, you could be a cell, an atom. It all depends. See, the microcells within me, they're cells. But in comparison to the solar, they're just an atom. And we're the cells. So it's a deep thing. But brothers just got to get a little more sharper on their science and get a little more sharper on Kemetic science, understanding that the metal netter has not been deciphered. Champollion and all these people that claim themselves to be those who deciphered it, they just did it for the same reasons why men do anything, for notoriety. But that don't mean they really did it, so you cheating yourself. So it's a deep thing. If Brother Jabari Any of these brothers that Sarnetta mentioned to me that day want to have a discussion on this weekend. But I'm going to need y'all to be real with yourselves, because y'all kind of be brainwashed into cult thinking where common sense don't matter. Brother tell you, man, is it not true that the Medu Neter language got way more vocabulary, way more alphabet, way more meanings than we have today? None of them could say that's a lie, but they'll tell you that the thing was deciphered. How is that possible? If you know 5 words and I know 50, how the hell you deciphering what I'm talking about? How does that work? You got to grasp. Arabic got 28 letters. Their alphabet has 28 letters. Ours got 26. You know how many more words you could get with just 2 more letters? Now the Medu Neter got way more than that. And they really think it was deciphered? We got to get real. Like, we got to really get real. And we got to just stop teaching retarded stuff. Like, people go to different environments and then they change. If that's true, why monkeys ain't still turning into men? Why apes ain't still turning into men as we speak? If over thousands and thousands of years apes evolved into men, why did that stop? Whatever generation was after the first that evolved, that generation should have been evolved. You should still see apes slowly revolving into men, going through the stages. But you don't. You see apes and then you see men. And you don't see nothing in between. Why it stopped? What happened? And this is my point. Don't nothing just change because it changed environment. If that was true, why Africans that go to Canada, why they ain't turning white? You got Africans that been all over this planet since 10, 20,000 years ago. Shouldn't they still slowly be turning white as we speak? And this is my point. The stuff y'all say makes no sense. Oh, people go to a different environment and then they change. And then we don't see this happening no more. And we act like life stopped. Brothers will say, no, this happens over a long period of time. Exactly. Life has been existing for a long time. So we're at an advantage. Life's been existing a long time. So we should see a whole bunch of this dumb stuff y'all talking about. We should see a whole bunch of things evolving right before our eyes, being as though life has been just living for millions of years before now. Before this point in time, life has been existing for millions of years. We should see all types of things just evolving right before our eyes. But for some reason, ain't nothing evolving. Things seem to be what they always been. It's a deep thing. Y'all gotta grasp. Y'all gotta make sense. The planet is the planet. It don't matter where you go, it's the same planet. You're not gonna change. Y'all are sick. Sick, I say. It's your main man Solace, the groovy, wise servant. If any of you brothers that speak on the House of Conscious would like to have a discussion with me about anything I said, you're more than welcome. If you're having trouble grasping anything I said, that should let you know that you're lost into your biased way of thinking, because it's a deep thing. Be groovy.